I understand when people hear the music, they bring to it and relate to it based on what, personally, in their music they like, sounds like yours. But what was your guys', favorite, bands, artists, musical influences?
It's pretty different between the three of us, and I think that's that can always, make or break a band when you have when everyone's sort of into something else, But I mean, obviously there's some common ground there that all three of us, like. But mostly I feel like each of us brings our own influence, our own musical history, what we like and we grew up listening to into the band. So I guess our drummer kind of came a little bit more from a jazz background. But since playing with us, he's become a very hard, he hits the drums really hard, So he's got that great balance of aggression and finesse.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Obviously, and before he started playing with us, he wasn't aware of too much heavy music or just stuff like that. So we kind of
shocked him into it.
Yeah, we're all super nerds musically, at least trying to find new stuff to listen to. So it's definitely cool that we all share our discoveries with each other. Oh, you never heard this record? Yeah, you should check this out or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I guess basically he came from more of a jazz background. Our original bass player Clayton was way more into DC hardcore and old punk rock and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so he kind of brought that influence to the band. But I'm not sure it's definitely not there as much now, obviously, since he's not in the band. Because Colin kind of has more of a metal influence, especially more extreme metal, like death metal and black metal and stuff like that. Is stuff he's more into.
Right.
And I study classical guitar, I study jazz, and I love so many different kinds of music, And
wow. So, did you go to school for it, or just self-studied?
No, I went to school for it.
Where'd you go?
I went to University of the Arts in Philadelphia.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah. I studied jazz guitar there, and I didn't know anything really about jazz guitar before I went there. That was sort of the purpose, to learn about it. But sort of had a backwards effect on me, where it didn't actually make me want to be a jazz guitar player whatsoever.
It soured you.
I took from it what I could, and then just applied it into my own style, But I definitely didn't want to go down that one path,
right?
Playing little jazz clubs and playing standards and stuff like that.
Yeah. So. Not too much. It's kind of a rut. Less, Yeah. I was the same way. When I went to college, I was, jazz guitar was my thing. I quickly turned to. Well, my teacher bent me to classical guitar, and then when I came down with the carpal tunnel syndrome, I became a composer. So. Fitting into that kind of rut is kind of a boring avenue. I relate to that.
I feel like if you want to write your own music, it's I don't know, jazz is not the first style I think of. This is free jazz and stuff,
Unless it's free jazz, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're a free jazz musician, then you're constantly making your own music and improvising and stuff, but.
Right. There's absolutely little zero market for that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. Do you I haven't heard all your discography, just what's available on MySpace and your website. But do you bring all those instruments into the recording studio? Do you just keeping your chops up on the electric mostly?
You mean just with Dysrhythmia?
Well, yeah, the classical guitar.
Like I said, Dysrhythmia, all our records are fairly stripped down. It's always, we've never had any guest musicians doing our records or anything. It's always, and there's never been any other instruments other than guitar, bass, and drums on anything we've ever done. And a lot of the records are pretty straightforward, but there's not much overdubbing or anything. But like I said, on the latest one, Psychic Maps, there is a lot of acoustic guitar, especially on the first 4 songs. And it's not even really playing too much different than what the electric guitar is already playing. It's just sort of an additional texture. So I'm really into textural guitar playing and stuff. And that's something I sort of explore in a different project, and not so much in Dysrhythmia. But I wanted to sort of start to incorporate that more into Dysrhythmia. Just bands like My Bloody Valentine and Slowdive, and these kind of 90s bands from England that are like Cocktail Twins, and it's bands that took the guitar into a way more abstract textural sort of realm. I love that kind of stuff too. So I think it's interesting to take that kind of influence and put it into more of with like a progressive, technical sort of rhythmic-oriented style too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The contrast between complex rhythms and then just sort of like ambient walls of guitar, I think, is an interesting.
Yeah, it's well, what's a dichotomy or some other word? Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
What I'm curious, the instrumental, bent. Why no drive to do lyrics or make a lyrical statement?
Definitely a conscious choice. At the time the band started, I mean, I guess they were just like a lot of bands were. I felt like they would be better if they just didn't have this annoying singer. And that was honestly, that was the motivation, because it wasn't like there was a lot of other instrumental bands we were influenced by or anything. It wasn't like there's all these, like nowadays there's lots of instrumental bands, Yeah.
Most
of them are more like, like post-rock sounding, you know what I mean? That sort of other style of instrumental. It's more just like repetitive and stuff. But
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of them today, but I feel like when we started, we weren't really influenced by too many other instrumental bands. So I guess the idea was just like, wow, a lot of these bands have annoying singers, but the music's cool, so let's do something where we just not even bother with a singer, And I just like the whole idea of just how interpretive instrumental music is. It can really kind of be anything. You know what I mean? Since there's no words there. So.
Well, that's true. You want to name any of those bands that you found annoying, or are you just the student bands that you grew up with that seemed to tack on a singer to an otherwise, solid rhythm section that was kind of gross?
Well, I mean, it's weird because some of the bands that where I thought like, I don't understand what this vocalist is adding to, but the music's cool. Now, like 11 years later, I like these bands with the way they were with singers,
Oh.
But I think at the time I just I think like maybe the first time I heard that band Dillinger Escape Plan, I was kind of like, I didn't understand why they had this guy that was just like shouting over this really cool music. I was like, this would be cool if this guy was just shut up and I just hear all this crazy music that's going on, But now I understand that's part of the craziness is like someone going mad on top of that mad music, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
have you ever thought of there's the idea of some guy or gal singing a big vocal line on top that just is disjoined from the music, but I hear you with that. And in my own music until recently, although I've started to do more pop rock format where I'm singing a straight ahead verse, using the voice as an instrument instead, maybe even wordless. I mean, have you ever thought about doing something like that, or has that moved you, or no?
That doesn't. I think at this point, at this point, I don't ever want to add vocals to our band.
Don't jinx it.
Well, I mean, like the idea was never to have a vocalist anyway. But at this point, I feel like we've done. I don't know. We've established ourselves so much as like an instrumental band that I don't understand why we would ever do something with vocals at this point. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, also because we have so many other music things outside of this band that we do, and some of those involve vocalists. So it's kind of like any ideas I have for vocals and stuff, I'll do with like a different band or whatever.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Keeps. I mean, that's one reason why maybe you need to, have some space. So if you have those ideas, you can exercise them with a different group and kind of keep the Dysrhythmia idea pure.
Yeah, kind of like each band sort of has its own sort of, I don't want to say concept, but its own like different musical goal. I just thought it would. I guess that's why we keep doing these other new projects and stuff, is because I sometimes get annoyed by bands that do too much, like too much genre hopping in one band. You know what I mean? Where like you can tell like these guys like a lot of different kind of music, and I'm all into diversity and stuff, but sometimes it just goes a little overboard, where I feel like these guys start another band if they want to have songs that sound like this, and then
I know
sound totally like this, like. But that's just my own personal taste, I'm not saying that's wrong or whatever, but
no,
that's
I hear you.
How I am.
It's a bit schizophrenic. I like the idea of keeping things, kind of separate, stovepiped. If not between musical efforts, at least between albums or art, musical statements. Yeah.
Well, actually, that's a different. Like, I think it's cool when bands will sort of reinvent themselves from album to album. I think that's different than within one album. You know what I mean? Like a band like Voivod or something. I think it was really interesting how throughout the '80s they just got so much more advanced, like with each record, and kept like changing their sound, but still being unique. But it was an album to album kind of thing. It wasn't like within one album where it happens.
Who is it? Who Voivod?
Voivod, yeah.
Oh yeah.
In Canada, yeah. They're one of my favorite bands. Actually, that's the band that all three of us in Dysrhythmia love.
Yeah.
So that's one common band we all like.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's an unusual one for a jazz drummer, a former repentant jazz guitarist. Cool. What do you so do you guys have any events coming up or dates or gigs that you want to plug, or you mentioned the tour in June, but anything sooner than that?
No, I don't think there's going to be really anything sooner than that. I think we're just gonna. The June tour starts on, I think, June 6th or 7th. All the dates are up on our MySpace page, and it lasts about a month. But yeah, before that, I think we've pretty much been turning down any kind of show offers just so that we can just try to write some, finish up some of the new songs first. Because anytime we have a show, it's all, every rehearsal is just practicing what we're going to play. Practicing